Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into some of the most powerful stories ever told, Aesop's Fables. And listen, these are not just for kids. They're like these little perfect packages of wisdom that have been guiding people for thousands of years. So let's unpack them and see what these ancient tales can teach us about our lives right now.
It's a fantastic question, isn't it? I mean, how can a story about talking animals, written centuries before the Roman Empire was even a thing, still feel so relevant? How does it speak directly to you and me today? Well, the answer is all in their brilliant design.
And this phrase just nails it. The magic of a fable is all right here. If someone just walks up and gives you advice, it can feel like a lecture or even a criticism. But a story is different. It kind of sneaks past our defenses. It lets us figure out the lesson on our own, which makes that hard-to-swallow pill of wisdom go down a whole lot easier.
All right, our first story is a total masterclass in what you might call social wisdom. It's all about the complicated dance of power, mercy, and the, surprising ways that a little kindness can come back to you when you least expect it.
So let's picture this. You've got the king of the jungle, right? A symbol of incredible power. But in this moment, he's also vulnerable. He's totally wiped out from a hunt, just looking for a little bit of peace and quiet.
And right into this quiet moment comes this tiny, seemingly insignificant little mouse who accidentally wakes up the giant lion. You can just feel the air go still, right? This tiny mistake could be a fatal one.
And boom! Just like that, the lion shows who's boss. The mouse is trapped. Its entire life is literally in the lion's hands, or, his paw. This is that moment where pure strength gets to have the final say. But then, the mouse does something pretty amazing.
Now listen to how the mouse pleads its case. It's so smart. It doesn't just beg for mercy. It appeals to the lion's ego, to his noble character. The mouse is basically saying, come on, you're way too important to be bothered with someone as small as me. It's a genius move, and guess what? It works. The lion lets him go.
But that's not where the story ends. Oh no. Fate has a funny way of flipping the script. The mighty lion, the great hunter, suddenly finds himself the one who's hunted, caught in a trap, roaring with frustration. All his strength means nothing against those ropes.
And who shows up to save the day? Not another lion, not some other powerful animal. It's the same little mouse whose life he spared. And with its tiny, sharp teeth, the mouse does the one thing the lion's incredible strength couldn't do. A single act of mercy is repaid with the ultimate act of freedom.
Okay, let's switch gears to our second fable. This one moves away from social dynamics and gets into something way more personal, practical, everyday wisdom. This is that classic story of planning ahead versus just, winging it. So you've got these two totally different ways of looking at the world. The ant is all about hard work and thinking about the future. He sees the sunny, plentiful summer not as a non-stop party, but as a crucial window to get ready for the tough times ahead. And the grasshopper? He's just living in the moment, soaking up the sun, singing his songs. But of course, the seasons always change. The world that was so easy and full of food turns cold and empty. And suddenly, the grasshopper's song stops. He's hit with the cold, hard reality and the consequences of his carefree summer. So here's the thing. This story isn't really about insects. It's about two competing ideas for how to live your life. Do you focus on future security or on enjoying the here and now? And today we can see the dangers of going too far in either direction, right? The ant who works so hard they just burn out, or the grasshopper who lives it up but ends up with nothing. This story really makes you ask yourself, okay, where do I find my balance?
For our last story, we're moving from the practical world into the world inside our own heads, the psychological. This fable is just a brilliant, timeless look at how we humans deal with failure and disappointment. It's a real classic.
It all starts out so simple. A fox sees something he really wants, these perfect, juicy-looking grapes. He's got a clear goal, a real desire. The prize is right there, but it's just out of his reach.
And he really tries. He jumps, he leaps, he gives it his all. But it doesn't matter. The grapes are just too high up. There's this gap between what he wants and what he can actually do. And it's what he does next, his reaction to this failure, that holds the whole lesson. And there it is, the famous punchline. Since he can't get what he wants, the fox doesn't just admit defeat. Nope. Instead, he completely changes his mind about the grapes themselves. He convinces himself they weren't any good to begin with.
We all know this feeling, right? It's where we get the term sour grapes. It's that same little voice that tells us the job we didn't get was probably a terrible place to work anyway.
So we've looked at social wisdom, practical wisdom, and psychological wisdom. What happens when we put it all together? How do these old stories about animals actually help us navigate our super complex modern lives? Well, each fable really boils down a huge human idea into one simple truth. The Lion and the Mouse, it tells us that kindness and relationships can be more powerful than brute strength. The Ant and the Grasshopper is all about the practical need to balance living for today with planning for tomorrow. And The Fox and the Grapes, it's this timeless warning about that mental trap we all fall into of pretending we didn't want something just because we couldn't get it.
And this, right here, this is the most important part. The reason these fables are still around is because they were never really about animals. The animals are just stand-ins. The lion isn't just a lion. He's the powerful CEO. And the mouse is the quiet assistant whose small favor today becomes a game-changer tomorrow. The ant and the grasshopper, that's the debate going on in our own heads about saving for retirement versus buying concert tickets. And the fox? Well, the fox is that part of all of us that protects our pride from the sting of disappointment. These stories are just mirrors, showing us ourselves.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. Whether it's one of these fables or maybe another story you've always loved, we're all guided by some kind of narrative. They shape how we see the world, what we value, the choices we make. So the question is, what's the story that's shaping yours?